We are now at episode 47, and today I'm joined by Chloe McCombe. Chloe, you're very welcome onto the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Chloe, you have had some start to 2025.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal, to say the least. I don't want you to go into it right now. So just I wanted to say that to you first and foremost, because at the beginning of the year, whenever I was still rubbing my belly after the feed that I had at Christmas, you were standing on a podium. We'll come to that later. I want to go back in time, Chloe, if you don't mind. And you will have already heard the podcast that I did with your sister Judith. And it was a great episode and a great sport. And you're a great sport for coming on too. But one of the things that I didn't really talk to Judith about, and I would like to speak to you about it, if you're okay talking about it, is what was it like for you guys growing up with the visual impairment?
Yeah. No, it was a good episode with Judith Niemer. I really enjoyed listening to it, and I'm glad that we're sort of going a different line, because my answers would have been more or less just copied and pasted. Would have been exactly the same, maybe just sort of my voice rather than Judith's. But I suppose our eyesight condition is albinism with associated nystagmus. So we're kind of like albinos in disguise. We don't have like the white hair and the white skin. Although actually looking at me in the camera, I am very pale.
That's an Irish complexion.
That's true, yeah. But yeah, so I suppose we've had it since birth. So I suppose in a way that's nearly a blessing, in that we haven't known any different. Like, we've grown up and it's just, that's the way it's been. We have two older brothers, and I suppose our oldest brother is, there's no right way to say this, he's the only normal one. And then our other brother has the same eyesight as us.
There's always one, isn't there? Like,
I suppose that, in a way, sort of, we grew up and we weren't allowed to use our eyesight as an excuse, because it was just, oh, sure, your brother did it, you'll be grand. Which I'm really thankful for, because I know people, like, I have friends with visual impairments, and the way they were brought up is so different to the way we were brought up, in that they were sort of mollycoddled a wee bit and sort of, oh no, you don't have to try that, no, we'll do this differently, or no, you shouldn't be doing that, you can't see. And whereas we were just sort of thrown in and just, give it a go. If you can't do it, you can't do it, but it's the only way you're going to know if you can do it. And even sort of, I suppose, problem solving, we were sort of left to, I don't want to say like we were just like abandoned in an airport and just like, go and find a flight over to England to your brother. But we kind of were. We wanted to go and see our brother, and they were like, well, I can't get the time off work, so you may go yourself. And we were sort of stuck in an airport being like, how do you see them screens there? Oh, no, I'll take a photo with my camera and then zoom in on it, and sort of different things like that. Or like, even sort of, I'd say both of us are quite thrawn in that we don't like asking for help. So a lot of it was very much just try and figure it out your own. And like, if we were asking for help in an airport or a train station or something, like, we were desperate. We had exhausted every other opportunity if we were asking someone for help.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool, and hats off to the folks, like, for encouraging that kind of independence and problem solving, a resilience, and overcoming hurdles and getting on with things. Because I suppose in many respects, things were never going to change with regards to your eyesight, so you're going to have to learn to be independent and to cope and to overcome these things when you were adults. So best place to start is whenever you are kids. So
yeah, definitely. And I mean, I feel like it's put us in good stead. Like, I don't think I would be doing triathlons and heading away in an airplane to Tasmania if I hadn't had that upbringing. I would just be sitting in an airport being like, I'm terrified, I don't know what to do. Like, what what am I doing here? Whereas I could sort of be like, right, I've no idea if I'm standing in the right queue. I have stood in the wrong queue in an airport before. I've almost ended up going to Barcelona instead of like Lanzarote or something. And it's only sort of whenever I get up to the front that I'm hearing someone being like, "Jeepers, the weather in Lanzarote is really good," and I'm like, "Hold on, right, where's this flight for?" And then I'm like, "Oh, jeez," and having to like bail down the corridor to get to the next gate. But sure, it all works out in the end. They usually announce the flight whenever you sit down anyway. They're usually like, "Welcome on board this EasyJet flight to Barcelona," or whatever, and you're sort of like, "All right, okay." But also, it's one of those things, and I'm just like, they scan your boarding pass before you get on the flight, so why are they announcing where it's going whenever you get on the flight? That's just a side tangent. Sorry, I'm just
I know. Airports are difficult enough to navigate for anybody, like let alone if you've
yeah,
got a visual impairment, like you know. So it absolutely is one of the most stressful environments on the planet. I I like watching the families that are going there, you know, and you can see one of the parents is like whatever, you know, doesn't give a
yeah,
shit, and the other parent's just about 4 seconds away from an absolute meltdown
yeah.
of stress. And the kids, one of the kids needs to go for a piss, and that kid's about to get the beating of its life. That's stay in line. It was 4 hours to get here, you know. So, oh, that's good
Brilliant.
stuff. So, Chloe, what about sport then? So the resilience and that independence was forged into yourself, and your sister from a young age, um, and I suppose that gave you guys and yourself the confidence and the belief that I can do it, and why not, and why shouldn't I? So, what did you do? What did you get into? What were you interested in?
So at school, it wasn't, we were sort of active, I suppose, at primary school, but we never really got involved in anything apart from sort of school swimming lessons. Secondary school, um, sort of third year, they sort of talked about Duke of Ed and going hiking and different things like that. And our oldest brother had always talked about how much he loved going hiking, being outside, sleeping in a tent and stuff. And we were like, well, if he can do it, like we can do it. So we went along to the initial meeting, and I remember the teacher in charge kind of looked at us and sort of went, "Right, are you sure you'll be able to like read a map and all that sort of stuff?" And we were like, "Can't be that hard, can it? Like you can bring the map up to you, and like that's all we need." Um, and like he like you could tell that he just wasn't sure. He was like, "I need to. Do we need to get extra insurance to have these? Like, do we need to take a guide dog to help him?" Like,
Yeah,
you could nearly see his brain just being like, right, what do we need to think about here?
they didn't tell us this at teaching
Yeah.
college.
But they let us do it, and they were sort of, I remember like the first hike that we did, like everybody was in the one boat, and that we sort of half knew how to read a map, but like not overly well. They taught
Yeah.
us how to take like a bearing on a compass and stuff, and they were like, right, take your bearing, blah blah blah, get to the top of that mountain over there. And the teacher was like, we'll see you at the top. So me and June kind of looked at the map and looked at the top of the mountain. We're like, it's not that hard. Whenever you stop going up, that's you at the top, isn't it? So
When you run out of mountain, that
yeah,
job done.
as long as we're definitely going up the right mountain, like we're grand.
Yeah, as long as it's the right one.
Yeah. Well, we
Class.
went. We just like we didn't look behind us. We were just like, this is the mountain we're going up. Like there's no point in looking back. Like we're going up that way. And we reached the top, and we were one of the first ones up. And we were sort of teacher sort of turned around and they're like, "How did you get here?" And we're like, "Well, you told us to go up the mountain, and that's what we did. Like, did we do it wrong?" And they were like, "No, I just didn't think you'd be one of the first. I thought you'd just follow someone up." And we're like, "No, that's boring. You said to race up it."
Mhm.
I think sort of that moment, I think sort of there was a moment of just realization in that teacher's mind that was just like, let me know they can do it. Like if they put their minds to it, like they're sweet.
Yeah,
Um, and like from there it was just, I suppose in a way we nearly went out of our way to try and sort of prove ourselves,
yeah,
to show that we didn't need that extra help, that we were just like everybody else, like we were grand. Um, and I suppose that's what we do like across everything in life. We're just constantly trying to like prove people wrong. Like people would be like, "Oh no, like there's no way you could do rugby or something," and we'd be like, "No, let's see about that."
Yeah.
Just you watch. So yeah, Duke of Ed was the first one, and then karate as well, which was interesting. We sort of did a bit of like sparring and fighting, but didn't really like that. So we sort of got into more sort of like just the techniques and sort of getting the next belt. And the senseis or the teachers of karate were really, really like open and willing to learn. They had a couple of other visually impaired people doing karate, so they sort of knew what they were doing, and they were sort of like, "Look, you need to come closer. I know we're telling everybody to stand back there. You need to come closer. If you need to come right up, you want me to stop doing like this technique so you can come up closer and see what I'm doing with my hands or my arm or whatever." 100%, and it was just so good to sort of just have that just relief of sort of not being stuck at the back, being like, right, it looks like he's doing that with his hands, but I don't. Is he
Yeah.
doing that, or is he like? And like everybody else was really friendly and helpful as well, and they didn't sort of. It wasn't like they made a big thing of it, which is something that I don't like. I don't like being singled out. Sort of like, oh yeah, everybody do this. Chloe, you can't actually see that, so like this is the way it's going to do. Like, there's nothing I hate more than that. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the fact that they just sort of kept it subtle, and like even they would have performed something and then sort of come over quietly afterwards, just like, did you get all that? You know what you're doing? Do you want me to run it through quickly with you? Like, we can just do it over here, and I can just pretend we're having a conversation. We're just having a chat about the weather, but I'll show you how to do it. Like, it was really, really good. But yeah, that was sort of, I suppose, the start of our sporting career. And then
Yeah.
from then, there wasn't much else until we got to uni. And uni, we did rugby and rowing, which for two visually impaired girls, like maybe not the best choice. But we went into it and we were like, look, I suppose we sort of both sort of spoke to each other and we're like, do we tell them straight out that we can't see? Or do we just go in, wing it? If it comes up, fine, we'll sort of hold our hands up and be like, lads, sorry, we like ran the wrong way on the rugby pitch because we're visually impaired.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe
so we
should
did
have.
that.
Maybe should
We're
have
sort of
told
like,
you so.
we're sort of like, we'll go in. If something comes up that we need to let them know, 100%, that's fine. But until that time comes, we're not saying anything. Because I mean, rugby's fairly handy. Like, as long as you know which try line you're running to, you just run through everybody, and then
Just keep pushing people out of the way.
that's it. And then rowing, everybody's facing the wrong way anyway. So in terms of that, wait.
That's
But yeah,
entirely true. Yeah, I mean, that's perfect. Actually, whoever that wee guy is shouting at you, 1, 2, 3, 4, the wee coxes
yeah,
or whatever you call him. It's up to that person to
yeah.
keep you right, keep the whole squad right. I suppose. Yeah.
So
So
like rugby, it wasn't until we were sort of maybe 5 or 6 weeks in, and I ended up with concussion. And that's when they found out that we had a visual impairment, because they were sort of like, they were doing sort of like a concussion test, and they were like, so how many people are standing over there, something like that. And I was like, I don't know. And they were like, oh, jeepers, okay. And I was like, no, hold on, like, even if like concussion out the window, like I can't see that. And then sort of explained, and then sort of afterwards the coach sort of came over and he was like, see, if I knew you couldn't see from the start, I wouldn't have let you in. But also, you've proved to me in the last 6 weeks that you're perfectly capable of playing rugby.
there you
And
go.
like, again, it was just one of those things where it was like, see,
Brilliant. I feel like the Duke of Edinburgh mountain story was a metaphor for you guys. It's climb the mountain, get over your mountain and such.
mm-hmm.
I think it's a great mindset. The idea that I'm going to do it, and if I can't, fair enough. But I'm not going to use anything to excuse or to pardon myself from it. I'm going to give it a damn good lash and see what happens.
Yeah,
I love that
100%.
kind of gusto and sort of adventurism, if
Mm-hmm.
that's even a word. But no, that's class. So the rugby didn't work out. Where did you go after the rugby career abruptly ended?
Um, in fairness, I kept doing rugby. Concussions just followed me for maybe 2 years. And then eventually I was kind of like, this is probably damaging my brain. Like, not ideal to have, like, my eyes not working and then, like, something wrong with my brain too. But arguably, people have said there's something wrong with my brain for years anyway. Um, But we really enjoyed rowing and we kept that up. And even after uni, we went to the City of Derry Rowing Club and we were flat out training sort of 2 or 3 times a week with the club and then sort of going to the gym and doing extra training and different things like that. And then one of the boys from the rowing club was like, here, I've contacts in the Irish para rowing squad. I'm going to put your name down for it and we'll see where that goes. So we went to Dublin and were selected for the development team for the para rowing squad, and that was class. We were like, unreal possibility of the Paralympics and class. And this is sort of like 2014. So like it was Rio that we were sort of, I suppose, aiming for without sort of saying it out loud. And then the coach from the rowing squad moved to Team GB. So it was kind of like, all right, okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, bye. So no more rowing. Like,
So
well,
that was
no
the
more
end of
rowing
the
at
rowing
that level.
altogether.
No, we kept going to the local club, but I suppose
Yeah, but
the
whenever
flares had nearly.
your man jumped ship, pardon the pun, whenever he went to GB, then that was your kind of Paralympic opportunity. Did nobody replace him
Yeah,
then? Was that the story?
I think there has been since, but at the time we were just sort of at a complete loss. We were sort of like, well, now what? Like, sort of this became the goal, and now it's just been completely dropped. But I mean, we really enjoyed the training. We really enjoyed rowing anyway, so we just kept at it. And we were sort of like, look, they're bound to get a different coach at some stage. Like something will happen, and like we'll be even more prepared by the time they get another coach.
Yeah.
And then sort of in that time, I suppose Rio came and went, and then there was a Paralympics Expo Day in Dublin, and we went down to that. Um, I'm going to say this, and it's not because we're visually impaired, but we bumped into a guy from Triathlon Ireland. Um,
There's that dark
there
humor.
should have been a
Love it.
disclaimer at the start. There's blind jokes all through this. Like,
There's going to be the odd wee clinker like that.
met him, and he was like, "Oh, so you're rowers? Did you know triathlon uses like the same muscle groups as rowing? And like, we can get you like into a race and like doing triathlon. Like, can you swim, bike, and run?" And we were sort of like, well, I mean, we can definitely run. Biking, kind of, swimming, haven't really done that since primary school, but could probably survive a swim. And he was like, right, there's a training day in Belfast next month. I want to see you there. And like that was sort of 2017. And that's when it all started, like going to that training day, doing a swim, getting in the water, and they were like, right, okay, just do like 15 lengths. And we were like, right, I'll give you one and we'll see how it goes from there.
Yeah.
Sort of
How are
joked
your
about
horses?
surviving one.
15 legs, good crack. I'm thinking about this in reverse. If that guy came at you and said, "Did you know that rowing's got the same muscle groups as triathlon?" That means that I must be sort of half good at rowing, having never done it in my life because I do triathlon. It probably doesn't work in reverse, but
Oh, you never know. Give it a go.
so in 2017, then you actually got into the pool. Um, you've heard about triathlon. You're in the pool. You're training for what would be a triathlon, giving it a go, sussing out, pretty much probably learning to swim again.
Yep.
Um, and of course, the big thing is for visually impaired athletes is the bike.
Mhm.
You don't have an ordinary bike.
Yeah, like
Talk us through the bike experience from maybe never being on a bike to being on the beasts that you guys have to ride. How did that all factor out from those early days?
I suppose one of the things about growing up is sort of we were treated normally. Like we had our own bikes, like mountain bikes. Obviously, sort of we were never allowed to do like our cycling proficiency. We were always told don't go on the main roads, but we lived out in the country. So we were able to sort of go around the back roads and different things. Obviously not at great speeds. Although in saying that, there was a massive hill just outside our house, and like we just loved going flying down that as hard as we could. Um, I hope sorry, mum and dad, if you're listening to this.
The secret's out.
Um, so yeah, we were used to sort of footering about on our own bikes, and then to be told, right, you're sitting in the back of this big bike here, and you don't have gears and you don't have brakes, and oh, by the way, you can't look around you. You literally have to look at the person in front of you's back. Right, away you go. It was terrifying. I think a lot of people sort of think, oh, well, if you're visually impaired, sure, it doesn't make a difference. You're just sitting on the back pedaling. I have peripheral vision, so I can tell exactly how fast we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that we are flying. But yeah, it was, I suppose, strange at the start just because, you know, you don't have that control. You literally putting all your trust in your guide. But at the same time, like when we're going really fast, it's partly scary, but it's also kind of like, I could never do this by myself because I would be through that hedge before we even got to it. And look, we've completely missed it. We've actually turned before we're in the hedge. Um,
So the
so yeah,
guides are in charge of making those decisions, changing the gears, taking them angles, corners, braking, junctions, all that sort of stuff. And it's definitely I can't imagine that that's an easy ride sitting on the back. And as you've already used the word terrifying, and I would find that absolutely. I mean, that would scare the hell out of me. Like, um,
yeah,
you know, putting so much trust into someone else, um, and hoping that they know what they're at, because there's nothing you can do at the back. Really, is
yeah,
there? You've no
yeah,
brake. You've no brake or nothing at the back. You can't just say, "Hold on a minute, I'm tapping out," and pull the
yeah. Like
brakes. And
even with speed bumps and things like that, like you're the one that's going off. Like we've been
right
over
enough.
so many speed bumps and like because the guide can see it coming, they're able to brace themselves, whereas they sort of tell you speed bump and you're kind of like, wait, in like 3 seconds, 1 second, half a second. So you're
Oh,
sort
there
of,
it is. Aye, right enough. Bloody hell. No, that's crazy shit. Right enough. Thinking about all that and potholes and everything else that goes with
yeah.
being on the road. Um. So.
I suppose one thing is I'm the indicator in that like my guide will be like, right, we're turning right and turning left. And like thankfully I know my rights from my lefts, so I can hold out the right hand, so or like the correct hand. So that like they don't that's one less thing for them to have to do. But yeah. That's what I always tell people whenever they're getting on the front of the bike. It's like I am your personal indicator. You just tell me what to do. I will do it.
Do you ever feel tempted to make the wee noise? Here I'm sorry. I'm in a funny wee mood tonight. Whatever's going on with me. So, tell me about the first race then. Whenever you've got through the swimming, your training, you decided, right, let's give this triathlon carry on a go. Do you remember your first race and how that went?
Yep, so the first race was Belfast Titanic Triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 2018. And whew, it was my first ever like sort of proper open water swim. First time being properly tethered. Um, I had met my guide, I think the night before. She had flown over from England to give it a go. And yeah, I just remember sort of getting ready to go and sort of being like, I mean, I know I can run and I know I can sit on the back of a tandem and cycle, but like, cheaper just swim. Like, and it was like, hmm. And then sort of it got to the stage where it was getting closer and closer, and I was like, right, well, I can't back out. I'm just gonna have to go with it, and just whatever happens, happens. We're just, if I drown, I drown. If I make it through, like solid, like that's the plan.
Uh-huh.
um, and yeah, it was like the swim was awful. Like, just I suppose now I'm sort of used to the idea of being tethered, but that first time, sort of feeling the tether, I think we had it round our waist that time, and just feeling that move and pull was just, it was nearly like claustrophobic. Um,
Aye.
and you just, like, I was sort of like, oh, I could just take it off. And then I was like, no, because if I take it off, like, I'm going to get completely lost and I'll just, like, tire myself out and just be gone. Um, but made it round the swim eventually. My guide Annie for that race was absolutely phenomenal. Like, she didn't get annoyed at me. She was just very calm the whole way around. She was just like, right, okay, that's okay, right, we'll stop, we'll tread water for a minute, right? Okay, I'm going to count down from 10. Whenever I get to 1, we're swimming again and we're doing at least 10 strokes before you stop again. And that just sort of repeated itself throughout the whole swim. And it was like, I don't even want to think about how long I was in the water for, but I got through it, and then the bike was like, it was class crack. Like, I suppose that swim, anything was better than it.
Aye.
But the bike, we just had such a laugh. We were just like, I think everything else was just, for me, it was just right. Swims over, can relax, can have fun, all good. And then I remember on the run, like, I spent the entire run just singing Mr. Brightside at Annie, because she had obviously like tired herself out in the swim trying to keep me going. And then it was her first time on a tandem, so she was sort of mentally exhausted.
Aye.
And on the run, she was just like, I am exhausted. And I was like, it's okay, I'll keep you going. You kept me going in the swim, I'll keep you going on the run. I remember just going around, I think it was, we were going around City Hall in Belfast, me just roaring out the lyrics to Mr. Brightside, and everybody being like, is he on?
Mighty stuff. No, you were able to pull her around,
Yeah.
and return the favor. So look, whatever happened on that day by hook or by crook, you got round it. You had
Mhm.
a buzz of sorts and lived to tell the tale, and
Yeah.
decided that triathlon. Let's give it a go. So give it a go. You did, um, and in 2019, you found yourself at the Madeira World Cup.
Yeah. So that one was a bit wild. Sort of 2 weeks beforehand, I was phoned up by Eamon Tilley, who had got us started on this triathlon journey. And he was like, look, there's a spot open for an Irish athlete at the Madeira World Cup. Do you want to do it? I was like, well, I don't even know where Madeira is on a map. Like, I've heard of Madeira cake, but um, sure,
That,
okay.
that's what I would have said. Is there a cake? Yeah, okay, I'm in. So that was it. A phone call, and you said, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah. Sort of again, had never met my guide before. Up until that point, I had never cycled in cleats. It had always just been trainers.
Mm-hmm.
And Eamon was like, your first international race, you're not going around in trainers. Like, you're learning how to use cleats. So sort of, I suppose I was out there, I think 4 days before the race. So I had 4 days to learn how to clip in and clip out on a tandem.
It's
My,
unbelievable, like the speed at which you're forced to face these things that you've never done before, and to be and just to get on with it,
yeah,
which I'm finding fascinating, and I don't know whether it's amazing or just bonkers or what, but it seems like it doesn't seem fair that you have to, we're going to where, and I have to do what with my feet
yeah.
now, like. But fair play, go on ahead. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to
Oh, you're
just
grand.
wanted to comment on that. Like,
Like, I
there's nothing
suppose
that seems to phase you, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say.
in fairness, they probably would have let me away with trainers, but they mentioned cleats, and I was just like, nah, you know what? We're gonna give it a go. If I fall off, I fall off. Like, you've sort of like, they planted the idea in my head, and I was like, no, you know what? I'm not gonna go out to my first international race and look like a complete tit going around in trainers on the bike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, right, I have to learn this. Um, so yeah, learned how to do that. Met my guide, I think 2 days before the race, and sort of had to try and figure out how to work things with her. What way, sort of, I suppose, basically what way to work swim, bike, run. I suppose it was the first time I had learned how factoring worked in terms of the B1s get a 3 minute head start, and at that time I think B2s also got a head start, and I was B3. Um, so even sort of like learning the ins and outs of that and the rules, like the proper rules and things like that, I was just like, my brain was just like melting with all the information. But at the same time, I went into it and I was like, you know what? Like, we're here to learn. Like, I had no expectations of podiums or anything like that. Like, I went into it and I knew I was for coming last. I had looked at everybody else and I was sort of like, jeepers, they've done loads of races before. Like, they know what they're doing. I'm rocking up here in Donica's old wetsuit, in bike shoes that I've used maybe 3 times,
Mm.
run
Yeah.
shoes that I found out whenever I arrived were falling apart. Um, so I was literally just like, right, if we can get round and not like drown, injure ourselves, or like my shoes fall apart, like
It'll be a
were
result.
winning.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was like the comedic relief in that race because I was running around. I remember going around the run course and they were handing out bottles of water and there was wheelie bins. And every time I went round, I had my bottle of water and then I was like, right, I'm going to get it into that wheelie bin. Chucked it. It was a 3-lap run course. Third lap, I got it in and I celebrated the entire lap.
3-pointer from McCombe. Brilliant. I think we all have that wee mini celebration whenever we get one of them in.
Yeah.
So you got round Madeira, and then 2020, the dreaded COVID. How did that hit you guys? How did that affect what was the early days of your racing career?
I suppose COVID time was actually when we actually started taking training a bit more seriously. I
Mm-hmm.
suppose up to that point we'd have been in the gym and sort of there was just a vast array of equipment and weights and things like that, and we'd have just been like, well, let's just use them all. Whereas you're stuck at home, you have your run trainers to go outside, and you have a spin bike, and you maybe have a selection of wee weights. So we were sort of very focused on actual triathlon rather than just whatever machine was free in the gym.
Yeah,
So I think that really benefited us, just sort of, I suppose, that focus. And also, you didn't have, well, you had everything at home to distract you, but at the same time, whenever you were stuck at home all the time, you did want to get out and do something. So it was a lot of, I suppose, aerobic work, a lot of base work. We'd have been out on the spin bikes or the turbos for like 3 or 4 hours. We'd have, I think, every Monday, more or less, through lockdown, we did a half marathon just around Claudy. We had sort of a selected route, and that would have been our half marathon route,
brilliant.
which, as triathletes who do sprint distance, why we did half marathons. Well, why not? Although in fairness, we did do a full marathon on New Year's Day of 2021, just because.
Just because that's why.
Just
Yeah.
because. I remember sort of being, I think, 3K away from home, and like that's when we hit a wall. And our mum rang us, and we were like, "Where are you?" And we're like 3K from completing a marathon, and we just want to go home. Or can you drive? Can you drive out? We're on this road. Can you bring? There's a packet of jelly babies in the kitchen. Can you just bring them?
Emergency Haribos. Code
Yeah.
red. Code red. Class.
But I suppose COVID, we were just sort of setting ourselves little targets, like how
Aye.
fast can we do this, and like it really, I suppose, focused us more. And that's something that Eamon hopefully would say that sort of we did become more focused through COVID, and then whenever we came out of lockdown, like we were, I suppose, better athletes and sort of more consistent in training, and more, um, yeah, like more consistent and suppose more dedicated and focused in what we were doing. That we were triathletes, like we weren't just sort of just winging it.
Aye.
I suppose.
But you had laid down a solid foundation. Whenever you think about the distances that these were running and the hours that you were putting in on the turbos, and you've already said for what was maybe focusing on sprint distances. But if you were already very comfortable covering the larger distances, that's always going to benefit you on the
Mm-hmm.
shorter, spikier stuff. And that proved to be the case moving into 2021.
Yeah.
How did 2021 pan out?
Um. Yeah, that was. I think there was sort of a couple of local races at the beginning of the year, and then again just with sort of whatever guide we could get for the day. Um, and then in the summer of 2021, that's when I met Catherine Sands, my guide for the first time, and we started working together from sort of August, September time, 2021. We sort of met up maybe 3 or 4 times, and then got told, "Oh, here, there's a World Cup in Portugal. Um, we'll put your name down for it. Go for it." And I suppose we had done, myself and Catherine had done, I think, 2 local races together between sort of meeting up for the first time and heading out to Portugal. So we were sort of like, we were friendly, but we were still sort of, I suppose, not sure on each other. We were still sort of developing that friendship, I suppose. So we went into Portugal, and it was an absolutely disastrous day. Like, just weather-wise was horrendous. The water was so choppy. Like, I think sort of there's new rules in place now with World Triathlon that if it's that choppy, like, the swim is cancelled. Like, it was wild. But also it was wild, but it was incredibly fun. Looking back on it at the time, like, I think I was just ready to just call it quits. But it was such like a thrill of a race. It was just, I think that's one thing that I suppose I've learned over the years is that if I go into a race sort of overthinking like position and things like that, like I just don't enjoy the race. Whereas if I go in and I'm just like, we're just gonna have a good time, like we're just gonna enjoy the experience, see how fast we can go and just have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until we were on the run that Catherine was like, I think we're fourth, and third is like right up there. And I was like, okay, right, well, let's push on ahead and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an out and back run, and I think it was on the way back that we got into third. And it was just, I think we were both really emotional about it coming up and across the line, because we were like, this is our first international race together, and we've just podiumed. Like, we've totally winged this. Our tandem was up at the mechanic getting half a dozen things fixed on it, like the day before, and here we are starting on the podium. Like, it was just insane. And like, people are sort of like, oh, it must be great to get like a gold medal and stuff. And I was like, no, here, see that first, like that medal, like that third place in Portugal, like that is such a highlight, because it was just, I think for us, we didn't put any pressure on ourselves. We were literally just like, right, we're going out. We'll just see how it goes. Racing first international race together. And to come away with third was just phenomenal.
Absolutely amazing. Those international events are is that over an Olympic distance course then?
No, all sprint.
All sprint.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just double checking that because I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. So your first international resulted in a podium. So I mean, that must have been the proof in the pudding that the work that you put in 2020 was obviously starting you in good stead. Um, and that pushed you on then for further international events then, presumably.
Yeah. Yeah. So after Portugal, we flew back home, and we were back home for like one day, and Triathlon Ireland rang me up and then rang Catherine up and sort of went, look, the grand final, like the world champs, are in Abu Dhabi in like a week and a half's time. You want to go? We were sort of like, wait, what? Yeah, like we were home. We pretty much like we're home. We got our washing done, and then bags were packed, and we were back in Dublin Airport going, what is going on? Like, it was just such a whirlwind of a time. Like, just that happening, just bang, bang. And then I suppose that was the end of the season, and I think I went from maybe 16th in the world up to 8th in the world. And then sort of after Abu Dhabi, it was very much sort of, right, so 2022, it's the Commonwealth Games. Do you want to try and represent Northern Ireland? So like, I think for me, I was just sort of like, hold on, right, I've literally just done Portugal. Like, can I have a minute just to sort of think about this?
Can a girl not get an opportunity to let
Yeah.
that sink in for a wee while before you start whipping me around to Abu Dhabi and
Like, we were
everything?
just out of lockdown. It was sort of like, I've literally spent the last, like, what, 16 months in my house.
That's
Now
right.
you're flying me to
Yeah,
Portugal and Abu Dhabi.
it's
But
unreal though. The speed of this journey is phenomenal. Like,
yeah.
go on ahead, go on ahead.
So then 2022, I suppose that was in the back of our minds in the first couple of races. Was sort of, we have to prove ourselves to get to the Commonwealth Games to be able to represent Northern Ireland. And yeah, like again, we were just sort of like, you know what, we'll just go in, we'll just race hard, and if we podium, we podium. If not, hopefully we'll do enough that sort of the Commonwealth Games people in Northern Ireland sort of see us and sort of go, oh, they're worth putting on, like giving the Northern Irish tri-sit to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and thankfully it was. And yeah, then it was sort of, I suppose the start of it was, we were told, I think sort of April, May time, and the official announcement wasn't till like mid-June. So it was trying to keep it quiet, and sort of, we told a couple of people and we were like, right, you have to, yeah, keep it quiet though, like, um, like, yeah, it was just mad. It was just sort of like, I don't sort of, I suppose whenever I'm looking at my career, I don't count 2019, I don't count Madeira as a race because I was so unprepared. Like, I was literally just, I was there to make up the numbers. Like, for me, in my head, my career started in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And just sort of thinking, like, I haven't even been racing internationally for like 6 months here, and you're talking about going to like a major games.
It's unreal.
Um,
Yeah.
but it was brilliant, and I mean the Commonwealth Games has to be like, it is a highlight. It was one of those things where, I suppose it's one of the times where Catherine, I think, was genuinely sort of a bit nervous on the tandem, especially because there was a few people came off. Up until that point, we had never sort of experienced a crash or dangerous conditions like that.
Mm-hmm.
There was Alison Peasgood came off on the bike course, and I didn't realise who it was. I sort of saw, we flew past and there was an ambulance and there was something on the ground I had seen, and Catherine just was like, Chloe, you just have to fully trust me. I'm going to keep you safe. And I was sort of like, why is she saying this? What's going on? And it wasn't until afterwards that she was like, yeah, it was like she had, I think, seen Alison come off the bike and she had kind of panicked. And then she was sort of like, right, I can't let Chloe panic as well. Like, we need to just keep calm and keep going. Um, and yeah, it was just, I suppose we didn't expect to podium. Again, it was just one of those things where it was, we were on the run and Catherine was like, I think we're third. I think we're third. And it was Catherine's boyfriend, Barry. And the first lap of the run, it was like, you're third, but you can get to second. You can get to second. So we pushed on, and it wasn't until we were sort of coming up the hill in the second lap of the run that Catherine was like, I can see the Canadians. I can see the Canadians. And I was like, shut up. I can't see the Canadians. They're not close enough to care about right now. And then
Let's
eventually we
get
were
the
running.
Canadians. Let's get
We were
them.
running, and I was sort of like, wait, is that them there? And Catherine was like, yeah. And I was like, right, let's get them. And then, yeah, we just,
Brilliant.
I suppose one thing that we try to do is sort of, you sort of creep up behind them, you sort of hold back, and then you just blast past them. And like, just so that they can't get on your feet, but also like, it's happened to us where people have like blasted past you, and it's just like a real demotivator. Like, because
Aye.
you're just like, oh, I'm never gonna catch them. But like, whenever you do it to someone else, you're like, I'm dying, but I'm not gonna show you that.
I wish people could have seen your face when you were doing that. That smug and a kind of screw you and a in your face, mother, you know, class, matey. But no, that's the Davy Goggins move there. Like, we are taking their souls just on the way
Yeah,
past.
yeah,
Oh, class, brilliant. So second in the Commonwealth Games in 22, absolutely phenomenal.
yeah.
As you say, this is like all within the space of a year ish.
Hmm. Yeah, like it was.
Commonwealth Games then in 2022 was a massive achievement, and set you very nicely up for 2023. So 2023, the World Series in Montreal.
Yeah,
That's what I have next in my notes.
yeah.
Talk us through that one.
I suppose it was our one of the first races we did where we didn't have sort of Triathlon Ireland staff. We were very much by ourselves. Um, and we were like, we weren't overly like, we were confident in our ability, but we were also kind of like, cheapers, what if we're late for something or get lost or something like that. But I mean, it was, again, it was just sort of, it was a fantastic race venue, fantastic course, and we were like, this is going to be fast, this is going to be fun. I think sort of the one thing for me anyway in that race was it was a non-wetsuit swim, and as someone who swimming is my weakest, it was like slightly terrifying to sort of be like, right, I'm literally just going in a tri suit here. I don't have that extra buoyancy from a wetsuit.
Hmm.
So I suppose I went into that race standing on the start line going, right, this is going to be a battle, because I knew that I was not coming out in the front of the pack in the swim. I was like, if I come out last, fair enough, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I suppose it gave me a little bit more determination, and sort of Catherine as well, to sort of be like, right, our bike and our run is strong, so let's see how many positions we can make up. I suppose that's the way we took that race, was again, not really focused on the podium, more just kind of like, right, this is the way the swim is going to be. It is what it is. Let's just see how many people we can pass throughout the rest of the race.
Yeah.
Um,
Solid tactic.
yeah, and then it just so happened that as we were going through the bike, we were just slowly passing people, and then we got onto the run, and we were just slowly passing people, and it was just, yeah, again, it was just Catherine sort of being like, "We're second right now, like keep pushing, let's go." Um, and yeah, it was just, again, just one of those moments where you're sort of crossing the line, going, "How did we do that?" Like, for me, sort of, it's nearly disheartening when you come out of the swim and every other bike is gone. It's just your bike.
Uh,
And you sort of try and think positive and be like, oh, well, I don't have to go looking for my bike. I know it's the only one left. Um,
yeah. We're not going to get mixed up.
yeah. And then sort of crossing the line being like, jeepers, think back to T1. Like, it's the only bike left. And here
Hmm.
we are crossing the line in second place. Like, again, it was
How
just
many have a
unreal.
field with that? If you don't mind me asking, how many people or many competitors?
In the PTVI women, I think there was 6 or 7.
Uh,
Um, it wasn't sort of a big field by any means, but it was still
but
sort of
like
big
those,
enough that you were kind of like, yeah,
yeah, but those ladies that you're passing aren't exactly novice
yeah,
racers. You know what I mean? They're international athletes.
hmm
You know,
yeah,
so coming out of the swim last and finishing second overall in a field of athletes with that caliber must have given you a huge confidence boost.
yeah,
Um, you know, in terms of your bike and your run, you must have felt amazing after that.
yeah. Like, I suppose that's one thing that I always sort of I think about in a race, is that I know that my bike and my run is one of the strongest in the fields. But it also gives me motivation and training to get better at swimming, because it's kind of like, jeepers, if I can go from like last up to second in a race in the across the bike and the run, like imagine if my swim was half decent.
Yeah.
Like, I suppose it's sort of that way. It's sort of, I don't just sort of sit back and sort of go, well, my swimming's a bit shit, but like, can still bike and run, be grand. Like, I'm always sort of like, nah, right, need to improve.
um, 2024 last year
Mhm.
was a big year for you.
Yeah.
Um, too many highlights I've got marked down, so I'll let you sort of bang through them in your own words. Talk us
Yeah,
through
like
24.
24 was, I suppose it was a good year looking back, but for me, I was plagued with injury and sickness throughout the year. There wasn't a race I stood at the start line of where I was feeling 100%.
Right,
Um, Sort of, I think Yokohama was the first one, Japan, and we had just got our new tandem, a SciFac, and we landed in Japan. The Di2 cable had snapped.
oh lovely.
So we had to go and get that sorted. I mean, it was Shimano Di2, so like Japan, no better place for
Would have
that
been
to
happy
happen.
enough to get that sorted, you'd imagine.
Um, but then because we'd never been on it properly before, I had a really bad sort of like, I suppose, hip flare up where we got on the bike and within the first 3K, I was done. I spent the entire bike of that race just in tears because I was in so much pain. Um, and
And was
yet
that
got,
just down to a poor fit then, do you think?
yeah,
Or just they
um,
hadn't been fitted on it right? The
it's,
position or something just?
I suppose, sort of a lot of chat with like the physio, because it was that injury that just kept on reappearing race after race. Um, we think it was sort of a mixture of the bike fit itself, and then because you can't train on a tandem unless you have someone on the front, you're constantly on either a watt bike or a turbo. You're constantly mixing it up with different positions, and
Right.
it's hard to get that same position. So just my hip just took a beating and just was never able to get used to that position on the tandem in a race, and sort of putting down that much like power.
Hmm.
But yeah, Yokohama, we still managed to finish third, which was phenomenal, considering that Catherine, she had an issue with her back in that race as well. And I mean, she basically carried me through the bike,
Hmm.
and we were still able to put in a decent run to finish in third, which was again just brilliant. Like it wasn't the race that we set out to do. I suppose going into it, I felt really good up until the moment I got on that bike.
Uh,
But to come away with third, like I've sort of felt at the time that I couldn't really complain about it. Everyone was like, "Oh, well done, third," and I was like, well." I cried the whole way through the bike. But um, yeah, like sort of, we didn't have many races last year. We did Yokohama, and then we had Swansea, where Catherine couldn't get the time off work, so I actually raced with Judith's guide Emer,
mhm,
um, and that was really fun. I also raced on Judith's bike as well, just because it's sort of like I'm going in with a different guide. We do like I'm completely different in the way I race versus the way Judith races. So I'm going to try and make Emer's job as easy as possible. She'll go on Judith's bike because that's the bike she's used to racing. For me, I'm just sitting on the back and pedaling anyway.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, did Swansea, and um, we were the favourites to win that race anyway, which I suppose in a way was a lot of pressure, to sort of go in knowing that everybody expected you to win. Um, but I suppose it made us hungrier in that we were going in sort of being like, no, we have to perform here. Like everybody's expecting it, so we need to prove it.
mhm.
Um, and sort of it was a week out from Montreal. So I was sort of we were chatting race tactics, myself and Emer, and it was sort of like, right, I don't want to completely bust myself because I'm heading to Canada in 3 days, and that's another World Series race. So, like, yes, it would be fantastic to absolutely blow the competition out of the water and like finish first by like 3 or 4 minutes. But I was sort of like, look, if we get first, we'll just hold first and just cruise it in. Um,
Yeah.
and then what I didn't tell him until we were on the run was in the warm up, I had twisted my ankle, so we got to the run and I was sort of like, damage control here, right? So Swansea first place, it was brilliant. Um, And I suppose for Emer, it was maybe good as well, just to sort of have that experience of guiding someone different, just sort of seeing, I suppose maybe for herself and Judith as a parent, like, oh, Chloe does this, we should try this, or Chloe does this, and like it's absolutely rubbish, we should keep it the way we're doing it. Um,
Uh,
like
yeah.
different things like that. Like I don't know, I never sort of discussed that with Emer, but in my head, I did quiz Emer quite a lot. So like, oh well, what way do you and Judith do it though? Um, and sort of there's a couple of things that I was like, oh, I might try that. But yeah, it was great. But it was really good to get over to Canada and race with Catherine again. Just because I suppose with Emer there was a lot of communication just because we hadn't worked together before. Whereas with myself and Catherine, it is very much just instinct.
Mhm.
Um, it just happens.
Aye.
People are like, "How do you get on the bike?" And it's just sort of like, I don't know. Actually, we just kind of do it. Like I don't know. Catherine just says 3, 2, 1, and then we go. Like it's one of those things where I just don't think about it anymore. And then people are like, "So how do you do this?" And I'm like, I don't know. We just do.
It's actually it's a real cool thing to see, and it looks like it's absolutely precision choreography.
It's
Um,
not at the start. Believe me, at the start, it's an absolute mess. Like everybody usually sees it whenever it's sort of quite well perfected, but at the start, it's usually like, right, are you putting you've got your left foot, okay, right. I was going to clip in with my right foot actually, and you've got your left foot clipped in. Hold on a minute, right? I need to unclip and put this foot in.
and then presumably you need to go over the mid bar at the same time, and
Yeah,
legs flying here, there, and everywhere, and good job you didn't have a helmet on. You could get yourself a thump.
yeah. I suppose last year, I think it was last year, I did a race in Letterkenny, and my coach Emmett Mullen, guided me for it. It was a pool swim, so I did the swim myself. He met me coming out of the water and we jumped on the tandem together, and it was one of his first times on the front of a tandem. He had sort of offered to do it because he was sort of like, you know what, it'll help me coach better to know how to guide someone in a triathlon, to know what you can see, what you need done during a race. And it was whenever we were dismounting the bike, he forgot, or he says I did. I don't. Maybe he thought I didn't work hard enough, but he forgot I was on the back, and just his cleat just whacked off my helmet.
Oh,
And then he was like, "Oh shit, sorry, I forgot you were there."
freaking roundhouse kick to the top of the skull.
Yeah,
That'll help you get into T2 at high speed, all right.
yeah.
But there's a lovely video of a recent training camp in Lanzarote, showing the both of you dismounting from the tandem, and it was a thing of beauty, I have to say. It looked really, really polished and really perfectly timed, and I was actually looking at it going, why don't I dismount like that? Why do I dismount the way I dismount? And why, I wonder, could I dismount the way they dismount? Because it looks so elegant. The placement of the foot. Do you just talk through that on the
Yeah,
bike? Like 3, 2, 1, pop, and away you go,
yeah,
or pretty
yeah.
much.
Like that was with Eve, like myself and Catherine. Whenever we work together, Catherine just comes into transition at speed and just slams on the brakes, and then we get off. Whereas Eve's very much just like, right, stand up, leg over, right, 3, 2, 1, go, and then that's us running.
Mm-hmm.
And I think out on camp that video shows also a mount, which is a bit dodgy, but that was like, we sort of went out, it was a transition session, and we were sort of like, oh, sure, we give a wee flying mount to go. Like, what, oh, sure, we'll do it anyway. And this was more Eve saying to me, I was sort of like, I don't know, like, I would rather not die today. Um,
Yeah,
and the
I've got
first couple of
plans.
times we were running and Eve jumped on, she got on grand and she started pedaling and sort of going slowly, and she was like, Chloe, are you not jumping on? And I was like, I can't. I'll just run the 20k on the bike beside you.
I'll just run after you,
Yeah.
waving my fist. Wait for
Then
me, god damn it.
eventually I got up the courage to give it a go. And like it was terrifying. Like, we weren't running that fast, but I sort of had like a cardio session going on my watch, and I looked back at it and I was like, yeah, got up to 160 beats per minute. That was pure fear.
threshold flying mount. We went off on a tangent. You nearly went off on a tandem, but we were off on a tangent there. I'll bring you back on spec 2024, and of course the big thing in 2024 was the Paris Paralympics.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, let's say that again. Wow. Paris Paralympics. That must have been something else. I remember at the time, um, everybody in triathlon in Ireland were clued in and keeping tabs on things and checking out on where things were at and stuff. But what was it like for you in the middle of it, and racing at that level?
Like, I suppose the only real difference in terms of the race itself in Paris was there was a few more people around the course cheering your name.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sort of, I suppose for me, I just tried to think of it as like, I'm racing against girls I have raced against all year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only difference is there's parts of the course where I can't actually hear Catherine because it's too loud. Um, but yeah, it was such, like, it's just a surreal experience to sort of go from international races where sort of there's a fair few people around the course versus like a complete wall of sound,
Mm-hmm.
and so many people. The race itself, I had been sick sort of the morning of, and it sort of developed afterwards. I ended up with um, norovirus from the water quality, and then that developed into something else down the line. But I suppose I tried not to think about it, and then the hip issue flared up, and it was just, for me, I remember coming off the bike and Catherine just being like, we're at the Paralympics. We're at the Paralympics.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of from then on, I was like, you know what? Like, it's not every day that you get to be like, I'm a Paralympian.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So it was just, I was just enjoying the moment and sort of looking around and being like, these people are watching me race. And like, okay, right, those people are shouting for France, but like, who cares?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, it was
exactly.
just like, I suppose that's just like such a surreal thought to sort of be like, yeah, I'm a Paralympian. And it's sort of something that even now I would chat to people and people would ask me about triathlon and different things like that, not knowing that I've been to Paris, and I would sort of nearly throw it in just as a throwaway comment. Like,
Hmm.
just because to me I'm just sort of like, it's just, I don't want to be like it's just part of my job, but it's just it's something I did. They're like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Like I got my first tattoo sort of a couple of weeks ago, and everybody's like, "Oh, a really cool tattoo! Did you? Why did you not get like the Paralympic logo and stuff?" Like people are disappointed. I'm like, I got a tattoo and it's really cool, but like you're just like, oh, doesn't have the
Yeah.
Paralympic logo on it though. Like,
No, but the last thing that you
thanks.
want to do is get the same tattoo as everybody. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
my I certainly wouldn't condone that at all with my M dot on the back of my calf. Like half the country, half Oma has a fucking Iron Man tattoo in the back of their calf. You'll get your Olympic rings whenever you're got a gold medal dangling around
Yeah,
your neck.
yeah.
I say that. But there's something lovely about the Paralympics and the Olympics and those international meets with regards to how everybody just is there because of their love of the sport.
Hmm.
Everybody wants everybody to do well. Yes, you will have
Yeah,
your favorites, but at the same time, nobody wants to see there'd be no malice towards someone like
yeah,
boo, boo. There'd be no like down with the French or
yeah.
screw the Canadians, or come on, there's just a lovely level, genuine love and camaraderie that's I think comes across whenever you're watching it.
Hmm.
Um, was there a sense of that then in amongst the athletes and amongst all you guys in the race? Is there that type of a vibe going on, or is that me spoofing?
No, like that's what I was going to say. Like, I'm glad that people see that within the Paralympics because it is throughout every international race. Like I sort of said, like we race against these girls all year and like all around the world, and like there really is no malice. Like, there's no sort of like, I suppose, like bitching on the start line and stuff. Like, it
Aye.
is just everybody's really friendly and sort of you're sort of chatting beforehand. So like, well, I saw you in the recce yesterday, like you were flying, like it's going to be a really good race. And sort of we joke around a bit and sort of be like, oh, I'll see you whenever I pass you on the bike, and
Aye.
different
Yeah.
things like that. But like even whenever we do pass each other, like we're encouraging each other on. It's sort of like, I remember passing the French in one race and sort of being like, right, come on, let's make this a race. And sort of just, and then
Sacre
sort of
bleu!
yeah, like at the finish line, they came up to me and they were like, that kept us going, actually, us trying to beat you, trying to pass you back. And I was sort of like, well, to be fair, glad you didn't, but glad it kept you going. Um, and sort of like at the finish line, like no matter where you finish, everybody comes together and we sort of either commiserate or congratulate, whatever it happens to be. And it's just, yeah, like you sort of get photos with people and even sort of on social media and stuff, you're sort of commenting on each other's posts or replying to stories and stuff, being like, come on, you can run harder than that.
No,
Sort of just banter and
it,
support.
it just looks like a lovely thing, and it looks like a nice, intimate friendship sort of
Hmm.
rivalry thing that's going on there. So I wasn't too far off the mark. I'm glad about
Yeah,
that. But it's nice to hear it as well from that inside um, perspective as well. It's something that I kind of always had a sense of.
yeah,
But nice to hear that from you. Um, we're right up to 2025. So I suppose at the top of the show, we I made a comment that you had hit the ground running in 2025. But oh my God, what a start to the year! Um, take it away. Talk me through 2025 so far. And bearing in mind, we're only a couple of months in, but I think we're only a couple of weeks into 2025 whenever you hit the headlines with a bit of a thump.
Yeah. So I suppose sort of after Paris for me, things just went a little bit downhill. Sort of I had to abandon World Champs mid-October because I ended up in hospital with a sickness stemming from Paris. So I suppose from then for me it was sort of just a rebuild, trying to build myself back up to basically just being able to train again.
Mhm.
So Abu Dhabi was sort of, I suppose, a starting point, just to sort of be like, right, let's see where everything's at. Let's try a bit of intensity and see how things go. Um, and then, yeah, to have Eve as sort of a relatively new guide. She guided me for the Paris test event in 2023. That was her first time guiding, and she was still keen enough to do Abu Dhabi, which was incredible. And we went into it and we were like, look, we'll just see how it goes. We'll throw in a solid swim, a good bike, a good run. We'll keep it safe, but we'll keep it fast. Um, and we went into it sort of, I suppose, in a way, we were sort of like, right, we could be coming out of the swim sort of trying to catch people. And it actually turned out that we were the first out of the swim. So we were kind of like, what do we do now? Um,
This is the moment that we've dreamt. We've dreamt
yeah,
about this moment. I've often thought, what would this be like?
yeah. Like I came out and we were running towards T1, and it was one of the Triathlon Ireland coaches that was like, "You're first," because we had sort of said like whenever we're coming into T1, I want a split of how far behind we are of the person in front, and to hear you're first, just sort of be like, "Oh, that means we have to find our bike." The first thing in
Shit.
my head, I was like, I never thought about this being an issue. Um, but yeah, then we just sort of, I suppose, started playing a game of, well, who else can we pass? There's, the male PTVIs had set out in front of us, so we were like, right, we'll just see how many of them we can pass across the bike and the run. And then the run, um, Eve was a little bit sick. The water was a bit choppy and she had taken on a fair bit of water. Um, but even at that, I was sort of like, look, you know what? We're first. Like, we've got plenty of time. Like, if you need to go throw up in a hedge, we have time to do that.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and there was one of the referees, because we were first, they were following us. And there was a couple of times we had to sort of turn around to him, and I was like, I had to blow a snot rocket and he was right here. And I was sort of like, buddy, you're going to have to pull back unless you want snot everywhere. And he just
Yeah,
laughed at me and he was like, sure thing.
fair enough. You don't get a yellow card for a snot rocket, though.
Yeah. In fairness, I warned him just in case he would take it thick if he got snot all over him. Just like, yellow
Yeah,
card.
it's as about as ladylike as you can be.
Yeah. In fairness,
Excuse
I
me.
was sort of like, I asked Eve whenever we were on, I was like, I need to blow a snot rocket. Is there any cameras nearby? Because I don't want them to see this.
You don't want that to be the defining moment.
Yeah. Like,
Irish
imagine
athlete,
that being put on the
your
Triathlon
action
Island
shot,
Instagram. Just the
action
action shot,
snot,
just.
as it were. Yeah.
But
So
yeah, it was brilliant.
you won it.
Yeah,
So that was the World Cup. You won the World Cup.
yeah, yeah. Like it
Unbelievable.
was a brilliant start to the year, and I suppose for Eve Guiden as well, for her sort of first proper experience of that, because I probably should have said the test event in Paris in 2023 ended up being a duathlon. So it was
Oh
Eve's
yes,
first
right.
time guiding a full triathlon. So to come away with first in that was just, I think, a real confidence booster for her. Because she did go into it very worried about the swim. Just
Uh-huh.
because she'd never done that before. We'd sort of met up and trained a couple of times, but when you're training just in a pool, it's hard to be tethered because you're sort of having to stop every 25 and then, all right, okay, I'll go round this way and you go round that way, and then we're back on the right sides and then we can go again. So yeah, she was buzzing with that, as I was as well, obviously. But yeah, it was a great start for her as first time guide.
Um, from Abu Dhabi to Tasmania,
Yeah,
you get
that
about.
one.
Jesus,
Yeah,
you get about.
that one was I suppose interesting. Tasmania was interesting in that um Eve couldn't get time out of uni, and we wanted to travel together. So we were cutting it very fine in that we landed on the Tuesday and the race was on the Friday.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, 12-hour time, no, 13-hour time difference to have to try and contend with, as well as being ready to race, was, I can't lie, it was hell. It was absolutely brutal. Just showing up on race day being like, it's like 2 a.m. home time and I could just go for a nap. Like, I don't know how many milligrams of caffeine we both had between us, but it didn't help.
Uh-huh.
Like, it was just, I suppose everybody's like, oh, so like you always take something away from a race. Like, what did you take away? And I was like, don't arrive in Australia 2 days before you have to race. Like, absolutely not. But
It's a big
it was,
ask, like.
yeah, but it was, I suppose it was a really good race. It was a good atmosphere. And yeah, again, just coming away with a podium is just phenomenal. It was class. And again, it sort of gave Eve a real boost in that, 2 for 2 in terms of racing and podium.
Brilliant. You had said earlier on then, Chloe, I think it was whenever you were talking through your 2021 season, that you had gone from 16th up to 8th. And since then we've covered seconds, thirds, firsts, goals. Where are you now in the world rankings?
I think I'm third at the minute, which is unreal. I suppose I'm third at the minute, but I suppose it depends on how the next race goes. Um, because there's not a huge number of us. Sort of one sort of slightly lower result can sort of cause you to jump 3 or 4 positions. But I think that's the excitement of it. Sort of you could look at the results one week and sort of be third, and the next week you're sort of down to fifth or whatever, and it makes you hungry to race again because you're like, well, that won't do. There's no way they should be above me in the rankings.
So where is
Um,
the next race then? What are we looking forward to then in 2025? I'm sure you have a busy schedule planned out.
yeah, I suppose for now, I'm not thinking. I try not to think beyond the next race.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, it's Yokohama, in Japan, and that'll be with Eve guiding me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, for that race, it's more. Yes, I could look and sort of be like, be great to be on the podium and all that, but for me, that's sort of a redemptive race because last year in Yokohama, that's sort of when everything just went wrong. Like for me, I
Mm-hmm.
want to do Yokohama and sort of get through the swim, get through the bike and not cry, and get through the run. For me, that's the way I'm taking on Yokohama. It's literally just have a good race.
You'll be reprogramming your mindset and your brains and your memory about what Yokohama looks,
Yeah,
feels, and sounds like
yeah,
this time. I have no doubt you're going to smash Yokohama. I'm just going to call it. You're going
yeah.
to podium. You have to podium. You can't.
It's
You
it'll
can't.
be it'll be a good race. It's a pretty stacked start list in terms of who's going. So if nothing else, it'll be exciting. It won't be a case of sort of you're sitting on your own on the bike, sort of wondering where everybody is. Hopefully, it'll be sort of a cat and mouse style race where you're constantly passing people and people are passing you. Like I love racing like that. Like Abu Dhabi was fantastic, just sort of sitting at the front all the time, but at the same time it was boring. Like you want a bit of excitement. Do you know what I mean? You want something to
Yes.
chase.
Uh,
Um but yeah,
there's a part of the true authentic sportsmanship in you sort of wants that the race, to
yeah,
race and to chase and to catch up and overtake and do all
yeah.
those maneuvers on people. Brilliant stuff. um Chloe, what would you like to say to anybody who's toying with the idea of getting into sport? And I'm thinking particularly with anybody that maybe has a visual impairment or someone who has a disability,
Mhm.
any type of disability, and they're maybe thinking, oh, I shouldn't give that a go, or I'm maybe I'm out of my depth, because you've been there, done that, and got a few podiums.
I suppose like at its very basic is like don't talk yourself out of it. Like you're only gonna know if you can or can't do something if you actually give it a go. Like you can't base how you think you're gonna react in a situation or how you're gonna be able to do a sport or anything by looking at other people. Because I think if we had done that growing up, we'd have looked at other visually impaired people and been like, oh, well, they're not doing sports, so I won't do sport. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
just did it anyway because we were sort of like, you know what? They might not be able to do it, but I might be able to do it. Like, there's bound to be some sort of workaround we can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose that's the good thing about, I suppose, today's day and age, is that there's so much like inclusivity in sport, that there's always something that can be done that sort of either can break you into a sport gently, or else sort of there's so many different para sports that there's something for everyone, and there's something that you can join in. And even sort of dragging a friend along makes it a lot easier. Just to sort of be like, well, you come with me to this. And I mean, if they're not keen, you can just like hold my hand while I walk through the door. That'll
Yeah.
do.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, like definitely just give it a go. Like whatever it is, give it a go. And yeah, don't base how you think you're going to be able to do it off of anybody else. Like you need to give it a go yourself to know.
That's brilliant, Chloe. It's absolutely brilliant. And it's spoken from the heart. And both you and Judith are both perfect examples of how this notion that I'll give that a go, and just look what can happen off the back of that. Like in such a short period of time, you've been round the world, literally round the world, doing triathlon, and it was
Yeah,
all off the back of some boy, frankly, spoofing the triathlon was just like rowing. Come on ahead, you know what I mean? So give it a go, and you never know. It could turn into a fairy tale, because you guys are living a
yeah,
fairy tale, aren't you? Like,
yeah. Like it's unreal. Like people sort of ask, like, oh, so you know, if they don't really know me, they're sort of like, oh, do you have a job? And it's sort of like, yeah, I'm paid to do sport. Like that's wild. And it's sort of like, oh, did you go to university? They're like, oh yeah, I have a geography degree. Do you ever use it? It's sort of like, yeah, I can point in a map everywhere I've raced. So,
yeah.
I do use the geography degree. But yeah, like it's mental.
Your geography degree is seeing you around the world, rightly, so it
Yeah,
is. And to think that mountain back when you done the Duke of Edinburgh was
yeah,
the metaphorical moment that cemented the mindset that I can overcome anything. If I can get over this mountain, I can get over anything.
yeah. I think a lot of
Unreal.
it's stubbornness as well. Just we're so thrown.
That old tranness in you all, no rightly. Chloe, listen, thanks very much for coming on to the podcast. You've been an absolute blast, a great sport,
Thank
and
you.
lovely chatting to you.
And you.
All I want to do is wish you continued success and many more podiums to come in 2025 and beyond.
Thank you. Thank you.
So look after yourself and take care.
Thanks, you too.